Hey, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom. All praises going on to Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, Bashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for teaching us the truth and citations to the sincere Akim and Akwath and listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Requai. I'm back in here with another quick and Lord's will is always an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I kind of just wanted to go through this quote that's in the book of Luke in regards to something Yahushua said about the physician. So, as a matter of fact, let me start off there because I just wanted to talk a little bit about the physician and the importance of the physician, and the physician being somebody who actually does with healing. And as a matter of fact, I'll start there, and sincerely hoping that this lesson, will be edifying, right? So, let me just go to in Luke the 5th chapter. As a matter of fact, let me Google what a physician does, just for edification. So this is on the etymology online. So it says, healer, one who practices the art of healing, disease, and of preserving health, doctor of medicine, right? It says here, physica in the Latin, meaning natural science, and science just means, well, science really, when you go into it, it goes back to the word scientia, meaning knowledge, right? So we know, pursuant to the scriptures, not all knowledge is good, because the scriptures do say that the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, right? Because why? There is no fear of the Lord, right? So, that there are certain things that, people might be knowledgeable in, but it's not beneficial because it actually it's wicked, right? That's not wisdom. Wisdom really and truly is the first, actually a fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right? So where was I? It says physicianship. It says, so pretty much someone who deals with healing. So what I did, okay, this is in, okay, I'll go to the chapter right here, and this is in Luke chapter 5. What kind of inspired this lesson? This is Luke chapter 5, verse 30, and it says, but their scribes and Pharisees murmured against his disciples, saying, why don't ye eat and drink with publicans and sinners? And Yahushua said unto them, they that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance, right? So someone who is whole, someone who is, quote unquote sound, doesn't need someone to heal them, right? You don't go to the, like, in practical terms, like today, people don't go to, I don't really want to use the word doctor, because this is one of the reasons why I don't want to use the word doctor, actually. Hold on. Because when you go into the doctor, hold on. I had seen it somewhere. Okay, this is one of the reasons I don't like to use the word doctor, because like when you go into it, the doctor in the etymology, the verb, it actually means to treat. Sorry, it says to alter, to disguise for the purpose of deception. It also means to falsify, right? So, but when you look at the noun, it says something completely different. It says to show, to teach, to cause, to appear right. It says it says teacher, instructor, learned man, one who's skilled in a learned profession, right? Because that's where we get the word indoctrinate. But going back to the point, someone who's whole doesn't really need somebody who is doesn't need someone to heal them, like in a practical sense. Like, so I was using the example of the doctor and a patient. When a patient in practical terms today, when they go to a clinic, they go to somebody to actually give them some type of treatment, some type of medicine, so on and so forth, some kind of prescription. Now, Esau, what he does is he doesn't believe, excuse me, he doesn't believe in actually treating things. He believes in actually trying to, sorry, I should say he believes in treating something rather than learning how to cure something, because it is more advantageous for him, because he cares about money, right? He doesn't care about actually trying to actually make the person more whole, right? And you Israelites as a whole, as a nation, you're not whole. There's no soundness. There's no soundness in you. When you go into the word, what's it called? Health here. Oh, excuse me. Health here. In the etymology, it says wholeness, a sound or well, right? So there's no soundness in our people, because you've gone into the ways of wickedness, and it has caused you to, your lifespan is, you start to see the detrimental effects in your lifespan. The lifespan is declining, because you're eating of those fruits of knowledge, of not knowledge, excuse me, of eating of those fruits that essentially Eve was doing, and taking on those different ways and those practices, those odious works that it describes in Wisdom of Solomon, the 12th chapter. That essentially what's doing, it's shortening, your life expectancy. It's shortening your health on a physical level, right? And it's creating a very unhealthy relationship between, us as a nation and Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, right? Because there is no what's the word I'm looking for? Because it's sin, and the scriptures say that wages of sin is death, right? So, another reason and another aspect why I wanted to kind of touch on this, because, it really inspired me, because, we, even ourselves, we have, even myself have shortcomings, right? And, Yahushua is really that physician, that is one that's actually binding us up, properly in the word, right? Because the scriptures talk about how the word, that is the word, that is the thing that cleanses us properly, because the ways of this world is not, it keeps you sick, and it's basically, it kind of treats things at a certain point, but it doesn't actually properly heal you. It doesn't make you more sound. It doesn't make you more wholesome, right? That's proper health, right? So, and I was meditating on, if I may just, share this, because, like for myself, an example, to be able to realize that, when I was, a lot younger, I used to have a horrible relationship with my father, because, I was overly, emotional and upset and anger, and there was always this amount of strife, and not just strife, but not the word's not confusion per se, but the word I would say is tension between myself and my father, right? And then through the physician, the physician is very, very important, Yahweh Shai being that physician to be able to bind us up, right? So one of the reasons I'm saying these things is to, show the importance of the physician, which is Yahweh Shai, and it's also to show that, I also too have shortcomings, right? Like I don't have, there are things that, you have to kind of like, work on, certain brothers go through certain things. Even Paul talks about the flesh, and the flesh that war against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And he even said to himself, there was given to him a thorn, right? As a matter of fact, let me read that. I didn't have that listed here. but I'll just read it. 2 Corinthians, I think that's, oops, I'm sorry, it's 12. Okay, 2 Corinthians 12, verse 7, and it says, "And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure," right? So it's a, through this, this wisdom and understanding, it can, one of the things it can do is, puff you up, right? Which, Paul even talks about that also. But at the same time, these are things that, we go through and realizing like, oh man, I still need, even if I know all these different things, even though I may know prophecies, even though, I might have understanding of these mysteries and so on and so forth, it's these things, that thorn that Paul was talking about, like, you go through these things and then you realize, man, I still need a physician at the end of the day, right? I still need a savior. I still need to be cleansed. I still need to be, more whole, right? And it says, verse 8, "For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me." It says, "And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I will rather glory in my infirmities that the power of Hamashiach Yahushua may rest upon me," right? So this is not a thing where I'm doing this lesson to glory in myself, because there are shortcomings that even myself I experience, where I'm like, man, I need someone to help bind this up. Like, going back to the importance of that physician. The physician is somebody that helps to, bind you up. Like, gives you, for example, if you're riding your bike and you fall, you scrape your knee, you see blood coming out, what do? What a physician would do is, properly treat that wound, right? Because, you're bleeding out, right? Properly treat it, put some, what's it called? That thing called polysporin. Put some polysporin on it. Well, first you'd wash it, then put the polysporin, and then you might put a bandage over it, right? But that's really, I'm just making this lesson to show the importance of Yahushai, right? Him being that physician, so, because, like, there are a lot of things that, we went through in the world, and, we didn't properly, have an understanding on how to actually deal with it. And, if I may share this also, there was a time when, even myself, I had the mentality of trying to repair the relationship, with my father. This was before I was in the truth. I was trying to repair the relationship, but, what had to happen first, I had to learn of Yahushai first to actually try and do the latter. So the outcome was, when I was doing it before I was in the truth, I was trying to do that, and it didn't work out. Like, there's always some type of tension, there was always some kind of a scuffle, there's always some type of fight, you know what I'm saying, and I couldn't fully understand why, right? And then I actually came into the truth, and then having these precepts and this understanding, this bread of understanding, then that's when I was able to, that's when things began to actually improve, right? Because you learn about who you are, you learn about the laws, you learn about honoring your father and your mother. So you look at them not in a disrespectful way, but you look at them in a way that, okay, you still respect their authority, right? And that's something that for me I had to actually learn, right? So now, having that bread of understanding, being able to apply this understanding, so what began to do is to actually, things began to heal. Now, Um, what I will say also, not every brother will have that same situation, but applying these precepts does, can help, right? Um, so, for example, as a matter of fact, let me get this one precept here in Sirach. Okay, this is Sirach chapter 15, verse 1, and it says, He that feareth the Lord will do good, and he that hath he that hath the knowledge of the law shall obtain her, right? So when you learn about the laws in our culture, we know that, we honor our father, our mother, we have a dietary law, we have, sundry laws, we have, laws on, you know, um, you have different laws to actually keep us. Basically it's designed to keep us separate, right? Um, it says, verse 2, as a mother shall she obtain him and receive him as a wife married of a virgin. Verse 3 is the point. With the bread of understanding she shall feed him. Shall she feed him and give him the water of wisdom to drink, right? So that's so important, having that bread, of understanding to be able to go through these different situations and be able to extrapolate and gather wisdom, understanding from it, right? In the world, you can say, speaking for myself, I was trying to lean upon my own understanding, without applying Yahweh Shai. And now being in, the actual understanding of knowing who I am and so on and so forth, being able to apply that bread of understanding. That's why Yahweh Shai said, damn, let me get it. It's in John. You shall never thirst. John 6. And it says, and Yahushua said unto them, John 6:35, I am the bread of life. He that cometh after me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst, right? So, it's through, learning of Yahushua, because he even said, learn of me, right? For I am meek and lowly, and my burden is easy and light, to roughly paraphrase. Learning of him, being able to understand that, these are how I actually can apply this understanding to resolve certain situations I go through, that we go through, right? I was kind of just using myself as an example to show you the importance of Yahushua, and also show the importance of having that wisdom too, right? Because Yahushua even said it himself. He said, man should not live by bread alone, but every word, right? To roughly paraphrase, right? So it shows you the importance of Yahushua, and it shows you the importance of that a physician, right? So, because we all have those shortcomings, right? So those shortcomings, sometimes they're there to just be a thorn to like keep us humble. And also, those short, we go through certain things to realize like Yahushua was really, really what's important, because you can't really heal. If someone is whole, you don't go to a physician. If your car is always fixed, there's no need to go to a mechanic, right? That's really the point I'm trying to get here. So sometimes in a crazy way, a lot of these things in the world happen to us, so Yahushua can actually bind us up and, patch us back up properly, right? So I guess I'll leave it there, but I didn't really want to make the lesson too long. It was just something I was just, reflecting on. As a matter of fact, I'll read this last one here, because I had this lined up earlier. This is Sirach 30, verse 16, and it says, there is no riches above a sound body, and no joy above the joy of the heart, right? So when you look at the mentality of our people, especially the ones that are a little bit more well off, they can't fully enjoy a lot of their riches, because they don't have a sound body, they don't have a sound mind, most importantly, right? So a lot of them are afflicted. When you look at the way a lot of our people die, especially when you think about it, like I'm just the one example comes to mind is Whitney Houston. And imagine that, a singer who's super, super, super talented, but you look at the way that they come to their latter end, the ways that they were walking were not uprightly. So you realize that they did not have the luxury of enjoying their riches, their physical riches, right? So, and it's more and more like celebrities, like you can use. Recently, I saw a picture of Justin Bieber as well. He was looking. Imagine that this guy's net worth is almost over $300 million. And you look at his countenance, and it's like, yo, there's no lights in the house, right? You look at a lot of these people, a lot of these entertainers, and there's no wow. There is no lights there's just no lights on, right? The house is dark, it's dim, right? I don't know who said this. I remember Apostle Gabar, he always says this, windows of the eyes to the soul or something like that. But that's the point. You look at the countenance. Your countenance is just somebody who's just dim. They're just in the congregation of the dead, right? So, so it's better off, As a matter of fact, I didn't read where is it? Verse 14, and it says, "Better is the poor being sound and strong of constitution than a rich man that is afflicted in his body," right? So that perfectly solidifies the point in regards to these entertainers and these people, because there's no soundness, there's no constitution, there is no wholeness, there's no health, not just talking on a physical plane, but also most importantly on a spiritual plane, with these people, right? So anyways, I'll leave the lesson there, but hopefully, this lesson was edifying, and I'd just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashmal Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.